Hey, this is just a quick video on how to push higher keys from the general perspective of a tank, but this does apply to DPS and healers. So first off, GCD locked. A lot of the times, dangerous abilities on mobs, say these Crystal Furies, they have piercing shards. Or Jade Temple, the tank busters from the Haunting Shaws, Dark Claw, Haunting Gaze, fast casts, and sometimes if you get GCD locked, you can't stop it, your tank dies. So, first thing is make sure you have some kind of weak aura that is tracking their abilities. So, from what you can see on the screen on these Crystal Furies, you can see they have the piercing shard icon ticking down. Obviously, I die right there since we have a lack of, or we have stops, but they weren't called. But as you can see, as it's ticking down, you can save the GCD, don't get GCD locked, and just stop it with stun, disorient, whatever the case might be. Here might be a better clip. So we do, yeah, 2 more Crystal Furies. There's another pack later where we do 4 Crystal Furies. You can find that in the full run. But we essentially have 1 DPS stop Skull. I stop the unmarked one. And every single time it's going to cast, we have 1 person to stop. Alright, so next up, as far as tanking goes, there is tank frontals. Certain mobs, such as the Sentinels down here, or the Guardian Constructs, they have a tank frontal that may be a little difficult for melee sometimes, for tanks sometimes to dodge. If you have a weak aura package that has some kind of noise, it doesn't even need to be weak aura package. I'm pretty sure in Littlewigs you can, Littlewigs and Bigwigs, you can use some kind of sound alert for the tank frontals, and then you'll be able to hear it, and you just step to the left. So you'll see shortly, I'm about to pull 5 constructs. Obviously these truck like crazy. Would not recommend this on tanks that are weak to fizz damage, but a very doable pull. And every single time I hear a lightsaber sound, which is the audio cue I use, I just step slightly over to the side. You will get hit from time to time simply because you're trying to stop Waking Banes, you're trying to stop the Keeper's route. Just have DPS assigned to those. That way you can focus primarily on dodging as a tank. Same thing for DPS though, melee DPS. Make sure your tank is marked, generally speaking, so that you can avoid the tank frontals. Unfortunately, we did get, we got one of the roots off. Luckily, there were no real tank frontals during that, so I didn't exactly get hit by multiple, which would cause a wipe. Alright, next on the list is rotating defensives. One of the biggest issues I would say for lower level tanks is popping too many defensives all at once. Just from a Guardian Druid perspective, you have Barkskin, you have Survival Instincts, Rage of the Sleeper, Incarn, and 2 Frenzied Regen charges. Generally speaking, Barkskin will be enough to survive 1 of the tank busters from the boss, which is fine up until, well, it depends on your eye level, obviously, but usually it'll be fine up to like 22, 23s. Maybe on higher key levels, it'll require double defensives, and that's when you want to start calling for externals from your party, primarily the healer as well. So for me, what I normally do on this boss is I'll pop Barkskin for the first one. Let me rewind a little bit so that we can see it at the very start. So right here, I have Barkskin up. Usually I will pop a Frenzied Regen, sometimes not, since there isn't really much damage and I know the Frontal comes out immediately after the first one, but again, usually you do pair it up with the Frenzied Regen. Next up, I'll have Rage of the Sleeper, again, another Frenzied Regen, and now I have Incarn again for the next two, and that also resets my Frenzied Regen charges. If necessary, you can also run 2 Survival Instincts, and you can pop one early so that it recharges somewhere mid-fight, and you'll be able to have 2 more for later parts of the fight when you don't have Incarn. But key point though is, for any tank, just make sure you don't overpop defensives, like on Brewmaster, you don't want to be popping Dampen Harm plus Forper. Usually that's a very bad sign. And if you ever drop down to like 50%, really know what damage is coming afterwards. If there's no real ticking damage, something of the sort, then staying at 50% health usually is not lethal unless the boss, for whatever reason, just melees you for crazy. Like if you're on a Prot Warrior, you don't have shield block up, whatever it might be. Bear, you don't have Iron Fur up, things like that. Alright, next up on the list will be starting poles as a tank. So this is very tank dependent, varies tank to tank, but as far as Guardian Druids go, certain poles such as the Ravager packs with all the Foragers, if you pull all of the Foragers, which is usually what most routes do, if you pull them all at once and your party is slightly behind you, if they all leap on you and you don't have some kind of defensive popped, as a Guardian Druid, you will die. It is fizz damage, but you really just don't have much rolling. You don't have Iron Fur stacks rolling because all the mobs are split unless you have Rage saved from the previous pull. Even on higher keys like 22, 23s, I have not been able to survive with just Barkskin. Usually I need to pop Rage of the Sleeper plus Barkskin or an SI. But lately, because I don't want to be using SI, or I don't want to be using those defensively, what you can do is you can delay some of the foragers, you can pull them in slightly late, or even on, Azure Vault, the arcane constructs, they melee extremely hard. You can delay, or not delay, but rather you can pull 2 of them, wait for them to start their tank frontals, then pull the next 2, and then chain them in. That way you're not taking 4 melees all at once, while you're still trying to group up everything. That's when you're usually the weakest as a bear tank. I know some other tanks also have this issue, so it's a little tip there. And then the last thing it kind of leads into it is route management. Routes will vary a lot of the times depending on your tank's defensives, and it has been a lot more it's a lot more important this expansion with some of these dungeons with all the tank busters. If for whatever reason you wipe on an earlier pull, some of the tank CDs aren't up. This is more evident for me playing Guardian Druid, because obviously, I need Incarn to survive. As you can see right here, I'm kind of just sitting here. I haven't pulled the next pack, primarily because I'm trying to reset Incarn just a little bit more, trying to wait a little bit before I pull the next pack. If I don't have incarn for these when they're meleeing me, when I tank all of them, I will usually die. So as you can see there, I pulled it in with like 15 to 20 seconds left. The four of them were doing tank frontals. Buys me enough time to get my incarn back up. And so should be safe for the duration of this. And then that's when you want to start rotating defensives after your big, cooldown is down. Alright, hopefully this helps out tanks primarily, but again, it should help a bit with DPS as well. Because there are so many tank busters in a lot of these keys, even if your tank is playing meta, that doesn't mean he's unkillable. If he's not pressing his things properly, he will still die. So as a DPS, you can help stop a lot of these tank busters. Perhaps not these Guardian Constructs in Azure Vault, but you can definitely stop the Icy Cutters in Azure Vault, Haunting Shaws again in Jade, things like that. Alright, thanks for watching.